So we are on page 23. If you recall, it is a description of the evolution of consciousness that really is the purpose of the various stages of life slowly emerging from the worm to the God, as he says. But this takes it's a long journey, and usually it takes a long time, many lives. It can be compressed in one life if one is totally concentrated and is a tapasvi. Otherwise, even that, I guess you can't be a tapasvi unless you have arrived at that state of consciousness earlier. So here he speaks of in the mute strength of the occult idea. Occult is hidden inside man. The idea, that is to say, the conception of divinity is there. It has to become a manifestation. It has to become a realization. So slowly emerging from the lesser to the greater. But before you can realize something, you have to first have a conception, an idea of it, and then realize it. Whatever we do, whatever we are, first you have to make a formation inside you. There has to be a need, there has to be an aspiration. So we have that presence inside us. But it stays hidden. It does not come out into the open until slowly the outer nature becomes ready to manifest that inner presence. So it takes several stages of existence determining predestined shape and act. The future is already present in the past. What is to be is already there in seed form. The tree is hidden in the seed. So the future of man, his final divinization, is already there. It is predestined. But it has to slowly emerge, slowly manifest itself, changing his imaged self from form to form. The outer being has to slowly become an expression of the inner presence. It is not enough to believe that we are inwardly, there is a divine presence inside me, I have a soul, I have a conscious, psychic, conscious presence inside me. Then why am I so unconscious on the outside? Why is there so much that is undivine in my outer behavior? Gradually, these are the things that have to be removed under the pressure and government, if you like, or the governance of that inner being. Slowly it comes out into the open. Unless one becomes that, one is always a divided person. Inwardly we are divine, outwardly we are not. We have to become outwardly what we are within. So this is the whole journey of consciousness. It is slow, it is long, it is not easy, so he has called it an adventure of consciousness. In adventures, there are difficulties, there are pitfalls, you can lose your way, and man does. He doesn't only climb up the slope of consciousness from stage to stage. He slides down, he falls back, he forgets why he has come on the earth, because his roots go down into unconsciousness and oblivion. Again he has to climb up. So this is the whole journey of man. At last, the traveler, because it's a journey, on the paths of time, arrives on the frontiers of eternity. From time to eternity, the mortal becomes gradually an expression of the eternal. And that is the slow change, the growth that has to be finally arrived at. To become this is one of the most important aspects of the teaching of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. It is not only to realize the divine presence inside us, It is to manifest that divine presence outside, in our body, in our life, in our mind, in our behavior, in our character, in our nature, in every part of the being. It is as if to change the stuff, the substance of the outer nature has to become a reflection of the inner presence. And that is extremely difficult because the outer nature is and has been for a very long time covered over by layers of ignorance and inertia, indifference, and all the really resistances that are part of the lower existence. We are part of that, we have grown out of that. The seed that sprouts out of the soil and becomes a small plant is in the beginning covered over by layers of mud. And so are we for a long time, covered by many layers of mud. So at last this changes. The traveler in the paths of time arrives on the frontiers of eternity. In the transient symbol of humanity draped. See, so our human nature is transient. A human nature, it is not enough to excuse ourselves when we make mistakes and excuse ourselves by saying we are human beings after all. We make mistakes. This is a transient state, a temporary state. It is not our permanent state. It is a draping, it is a covering, it is a clothing. This has to be replaced by another manifestation, another expression. In the transient symbol of humanity draped, he feels his substance of undying self. The mortal begins to become one with the eternal within. The transient being becomes an expression of the immortal and loses his kinship with mortality. So you have in this sentence again the essence of the purpose of the yoga of Sri Aurobindo. It is to have the life divine on earth in the body. It is not to seek a life divine or a divine consciousness way above in the worlds of light and truth and knowledge and give up this connection with the lower existence. The lower existence contains all the power, the push, the energy to take us up. How can it be capable of that unless that power, that energy were not already divine? So in that unconscious apparent energy is the supreme Shakti. The connection between the lower creation and the highest consciousness is the force, is the guidance. And that force is, if you like to put it that way, is the mother, or is Savitri. When it's like the sun above and the world of matter below, but the sun's ray can make the world below glisten, shine, light up. So can we. A beam of the eternal smites his heart. His thought stretches into infinitude. All in him turns to spirit vastnesses. All. It's not simply that the world of the spirit, which is infinitely vast, which is formless, shapeless, transcendent, divine, it doesn't have limits. It is there in us. So the limited human nature is the recipient of the infinite. The infinite is contained in the finite, just as the finite is part of the infinite. The two are not opposed to one another. The human and the divine are not in two different, you might say, categories. One could say that man is not aware, but he is God in the making. It's an unfinished painting or an incomplete piece of sculpture, but the final expression is the divinization and manifestation of the divine in the world of matter, of life and mind. The soul otherwise stays within, realizing that the outer being is unwilling to reflect the soul. So the vital nature, the physical nature, the mental nature, all of these resist. They have their own dharmas, they have their own laws, they have their difficulties. Matter has its inertia, mind has its tremendous ego, the vital has its indiscipline, and they do not permit the inner presence to emerge too easily. So the outer being has to be shaped, has to be polished, has to be made receptive, and that is the whole process. Then the soul is released, as the canto says, from its inner cage where it is hiding all this while. When that is done, all in him turns to spirit vastnesses. His soul breaks out to join the oversoul. The individual becomes the cosmic. The soul is the concentration of the consciousness. It has, as if the supreme transcendent cannot be described as soul. It is just a vastitude, it is brihat, it is satyam, it is ritam, it is something that is infinitely vast. The moment it becomes, you might say, acquire a kind of a definition and individualization, then we have the soul. The soul is the individualization of the divine in each. The universe also, the cosmos, is a kind of a projection from the transcendent. It has its own characteristics. The individual becomes the cosmic. The cosmic is a projection of the transcendent. These are the three stages, or the three statuses, they could be said, of the Supreme. The Supreme, the divine creation is beautifully planned. It's not simply a projection of the divine will. It is a divine will, but the will is worked out very systematically, very methodically. Everything has to be taken up. Every particle has to be made part of this journey. That is why it is so slow. In the world of the inconscient, the presence of the soul is there, there is a spirit, but the inconscient is also very much there, and so in the body, the presence of the soul is not easily felt. And as long as the inconscient is there in every cell of the body will finally break up, it will die. But when each cell becomes illumined by the spirit, by the consciousness, then there will be no reason to die. That is the preoccupation of man from the beginning of time, immortality. We have this dream of immortality because we already have it inside us. We contain the mortal contains the immortal, and slowly has to make manifest that immortal in every aspect of his existence. This is being done slowly by Sri Aurobindo, because Ashwapati is himself. He is describing his own yoga, the stages of his own journey, all in him. If you look at read the experiences of Sri Aurobindo in, for instance, the record of yoga, you see how he works on himself. He who is the divine, who has become human, shows us how the human can go back into the manifestation of the divine. This is what is required. His soul breaks out to join the oversoul. His life is oceaned by that super life. The universal energy. Life is force. Life is energy. Without that energy, there is only light, but there is no power. Consciousness has to be accompanied by power, by force, Chit Shakti. Otherwise, it's a state which is completely static, Sat Chit Chit Ananda. It is not Sat Chit Ananda only, it is Sat Chit Shakti Ananda. Sat is existence. That existence contains all conscious force. And when that is there, there is perfect harmony and delight. So this is the attempt being made by this particular yogi. His life is oceaned by that super life. In the world of outer manifestation, the sky and the ocean are expressions of the infinite, of the vast. So the small is one with the vast. If I am aware that I am just one drop of the divine consciousness, I fall into the ocean, I become the universal ocean. The drop becomes the ocean, the individual becomes the all. But if we are so attached to our separateness, our separate individualization, and we say, I am this, I like this, I don't want to be like that, I like to be only like this, then I am surrounded by my personal egoistic shell. It's like you could say the drop doesn't want to give up its drophood. It stays in the water, but like an island, it stays away from the rest. This is something very strong. In the spiritual life too, there is the ego. It is there. It has to be systematically worked on and removed. But for that, you have to have not just consciousness, but that energy to break down the resistance, to break down the opposition, sometimes the opposition of knowledge. I have the power, the knowledge, I don't need anything else. But I have to make that knowledge, that consciousness manifest in my body. It has to be manifested in my actions. It has to be manifested in my nature. It is not enough to have it in my higher being only. Something that is extremely difficult. Which is why so many sages retired into solitude and concentrated only on their own personal inner realizations and trying to lose all connection with the outer body, life, mind. And this is where Sri Aurobindo steps in and says, is it only to leave behind our body, life, mind and withdraw into the spirit that we have been given this world of body, life and mind? Who has given this body, life, mind? It is the Supreme. He who has created the world of matter, of life, of mind, is the same as the one who is an expression of the soul. Then why do we divide one from the other? Because in matter there is a great deal of resistance, of inertia. To break down that resistance is the battle, is the joy. It is the difficult part to remove all that comes in the way of the manifestation of the perfection that is waiting to emerge out of the body, like you might say the goddess that is waiting to emerge out of the stone. You have to remove all the other portions so that the beauty that is hidden in the stone emerges as a form of perfect sculpture. But it is already there. It is not planted into the stone, it is there. In man the divine is already there. What we have to remove is all that comes in the way. So this is nature. Nature is the field of manifestation, the field of action, the field of change. So he has drunk from the breasts of the mother of the worlds. She is at work all the time. The energy, the force of evolution, which pushes us all the time. Whether we are willing to be pushed or not, we don't always want to be pushed. We want to resist, we fall back into sleep, into dullness, into ignorance. But she keeps on and on and on. It never ceases. He has consciously drawn his energy from her. She is always there. We don't turn to her. Ashwapati has. And is always drawing all his inspiration, his force, his energy from that power that is at work in all things. It is endless. It is the infinite. A topless supernature fills his frame. So he uses words that seem to be opposed to one another. When he says topless and frame, frame is limited. The limited becomes an expression of the eternal and the infinite. She adopts his spirit's everlasting ground. She, this supernature. She adopts his spirit. His is this seeker of perfection, of manifestation. She adopts his spirit. She enters into his spirit's everlasting ground. Again, you have the notion of spirit and ground. In the world of matter is the foundation of the spirit. The two are not opposed to the other, as the security of her changing world. Spirit is formless, matter has a form. Matter is stable. The manifestation has to take place in the world of matter, in the world of form. And that is one of the reasons why Mother's insistence all the time that you have to work on your body as much as you have to work on your mind and your soul or your spirit or your life or all the different aspects of your being. You have to work as much as well on your physical nature, because that is the medium through which the establishing of the new consciousness, and we are now in February, the end of the month is the manifestation of the new consciousness that took place. It's a manifestation. It is in the world of matter, on the earth. I remember in the class once when it happened, Mother asked for a piece of paper, and she took a pencil and drew a little flame, a fire, in which she drew a little baby. A small baby is in that is to say a new birth. And she says, this is the new consciousness. It is very small. It seems very small, but it is almighty. It is working. Nobody recognizes it. It is so small, we don't recognize the working of this consciousness. But it is at work. The changes are taking place in the world of matter, no matter what we believe or not. And because the changes are always resisted, there are also the opposite for expressions of, you might say, violence and rejection and war, which is going on more and more in the world today. Things are that have to be thrown out of the earth consciousness. They come to the top, they come on the surface, and like the poison that has to be first brought up to the surface before it can be thrown out, these resistances and falsehood and attachment to our lower nature, all these emerge. The ego becomes very, very powerful. These have to be eliminated. And they will be eliminated because the other force is growing, is increasing. The consciousness is becoming more and more wide. More and more people are becoming aware that there are new possibilities, new expressions of light and truth and joy that are coming within the scope of the human experience. As one grows, there's the other side that one refuses to change as well. So she is at work, she on the Spirit's everlasting ground, as the security of her changing world. You need a foundation, you need some kind of security. On this basis, a new manifestation will take place. It is nature, she is nature. And shapes the figure of her unborn mites. All this play of opposites. She shapes figures, forms, lives, embodiments of the consciousness that is not just something abstract, something that is a form of light or joy or truth, which is formless. This conscious manifestation is a form of the formless, is an expression of the infinite. The infinite does not cease to be infinite when it wears a form. When we wear a form, we wear a body, we say we are limited. to make this limited expression, so-called limited expression, an expression of that which is infinite. If that can be ultimately realized, then there can be constant renewal, constant change. At every moment of our experience, the new manifestations take place. There is no need for giving up a body. You renew the body. A new manifestation takes place. So this is what immortally she conceives herself in him. In the human nature, the divine force manifests itself again and again and again. All this is very, very difficult for us to achieve. It is not achieved by us, it is achieved by her through the slow, long process of evolution of consciousness. If we participate in our evolution, if we collaborate, that is called yoga. Yoga is accelerate the evolution by collaborating. Otherwise, evolution goes on and it can take thousands of lives. But when one puts all one's intensity of aspiration and concentration in this process, one speeds up the journey. And that is what Aurobindo describes as yoga, one of his definitions, to accelerate the process. So she is constantly making possible new manifestation. She, this force, this universal force, you can see how much the mother is at work. She is the mother, she is the mother power, she is the universal nature. She has not withdrawn from the earth. She is at work constantly, never ceases. He is above, he is supreme, he is also there. But she is doing it. That is why she says about him and her that, Lord, thou hast willed and I execute. She is the executive power, she is at work. Slowly, in the creature, the unveiled creatrix works. Creatrix, actually the feminine of the word creator. The creature, the being who is created. We are all created. Not only is the veiled creator or creatrix there within us, slowly the unveiled creatrix has to be manifested. Remove the veils of error, falsehood, ignorance, ego, all these things that hide the divine within us. The whole push of this long movement of evolution of consciousness is to reveal that inner consciousness in the manifested being, the creature. In the creature, the unveiled creatrix works. Her face is seen through his face, her eyes through his eyes. It's as if an identification of the supreme consciousness, force manifesting in that which is evolving from below. The evolving being slowly becomes a representation of that is making us evolve. We can't progress on our own. We can't evolve by ourselves. The force is the guide. The force is conscious as well as force. Consciousness and force. She is leading. Gradually, if we can identify ourselves with that force, the first thing we have to do is to remove our attachment to our littleness and ego. We offer ourselves to her, allow ourselves to become expressions of her without hesitation, without resistance, without conditions and questions, because we're always questioning. We say, why is this, what is this, why should I do this? That will never lead us forward. So this is the unveiled, her face is seen through his face, her eyes through his eyes. Our human nature where she is at work, becomes an expression of him. We are the instruments of this force of nature. Gradually our human expression becomes an expression of the divine consciousness. Again, the yoga of transformation. His being is his. Her being is his through a vast identity. Her being, the earthly being, where this nature force is at work, it is the divine nature, but she's at work in the lower planes, slowly kneading, shaping, cleansing, purifying, making the outer being an expression of that supreme consciousness. It is not by leaving this earthly life that we will experience the divine, but by manifesting the divine in the earthly life. In all things, whatever it is. And sometimes in Mother's talks, she is very, very simple. She says, when you eat, when you brush your teeth, when you walk, you express identity with the divine. If you can do that, then you are beginning to move in this direction. Now we think that certain activities are not very divine. The brushing of your teeth, you say, is not a very divine activity. It can be. You can feel that it is she who is doing it. It's like what she once told me when I was a little girl and I had problems of digesting my food. She says, when you eat, try to believe that you are feeding me. I'm inside you. You feed me when you eat. This is where you can establish a connection with our daily activities, in our daily life, whatever in our walking, in our talking, in our movements, in our so-called very commonplace actions. There is no such thing as actually commonplace. Everything is an opportunity to manifest the divine, whatever it may be. When this is there, then is revealed in man the overt divine. Overt, open, manifest. Whereas in us, there is the covert divine. The divine is hidden. We're very well hidden sometimes. So we have to remove or bring him out of that hiding. When this is done, then is revealed in man the overt divine, a static oneness and dynamic power. Oneness is consciousness, all encompassing. It is he, the dynamic power, that work, energy, force, Chit, Shakti, or the Lord and the Mother. They are two aspects of the same. A static oneness and dynamic power descend in him, in the one who is seeking the integral Godhead seals. This is truly the sadhak of the yoga of Aurobindo, the integral yoga, where there is static oneness, will never be cut off from that source that is always there, of consciousness, of light, of truth, of joy, of perfection. And that power, because usually when we get into active movements of life, all kinds of activities, we tend to lose contact with the source. We get caught up in all the things that we do, and all the activities of our daily life often make us lose that connection. But if we could not lose that connection, it is not sufficient, it is a little helpful but not sufficient to just concentrate on the divine before you start doing anything. That is a start. But concentrate on the divine while you are doing anything and everything. While you are walking and talking and working, to stay as much as possible in touch with that consciousness. Because the help is there, the presence is there. The promise has been made and it is always there. It is we who fail to recognize it. The presence has not withdrawn. As Sri Aurobindo and Mother are permanently present, she has said that about him. He is permanently present in the subtle physical. And what is true of him is true of her. Permanently present. We fail to see that. It is our short-sightedness, our blindness. We have covered our eyes with our own notions and opinions, and they are very dangerous, these things. We have to be completely quiet, free of any ready-made notions, just open ourselves, offer, like as she describes, calm, clear sheet of water. It will reflect the sky, the sun, everything above. We have to remain completely still. Then that power, that oneness descend in him, in the seeker, the integral Godhead seals. His soul and body take that splendid stamp. The soul is beautiful, so is the outer nature. And here is this is what Ashwapati has done, and then this following sentence is a kind of a generalization, a universalization of this experience. A long, dim preparation is man's life. This is what we are here for. For a long time we are not aware. Life is movement. Life is a journey. We don't know where we are going. We don't even know if there is a goal. We move in circles. We are trapped in dimness. Just a little consciousness is given to the living being as opposed to a completely material, inert piece of stone. But the living being is not aware why he is there. But until a certain urge starts to emerge, he wants joy, he wants love, he wants light. It's a very slow process of growth. Just like the small creature slowly grows into something bigger, more beautiful, more aware. So this is the truth for all of us. A long, dim preparation is man's life. A circle of toil and hope and war and peace. In 4 lines he gives us the summary of a human life. In 4 words, I mean. Toil and struggle, and yet we hope on. We don't give up. We fight against ourselves. The war is within. The opposition is inside us. We carry our loads of difficulties and resistances within. Sometimes we can break out. Momentarily we sometimes have some kind of realization of calm. It is not always war. There are beautiful moments. But it is a circle. When it says circle, it is a repetitive cycle. Until a moment comes when the consciousness has grown sufficiently evolved to say, why am I repeating the same cycle again and again and again? Otherwise we live to die, and we die to live, and we live to die, and in between we have a few experiences until the day we say, it's really not taking me anywhere. I have to change. The level of perhaps the circle has to be on another level. It opens out to a new, the higher you climb, the landscape widens, the spiritual landscape widens, you see more, you become aware of more possibilities, more experiences. We grow slowly in consciousness. Things you did not recognize or realize exist, now you begin to believe they do exist. But this is the pattern that nature has created. Now, in this word nature, there are two aspects. In the world of matter, this is the world of pure energy. It seems to be automatic energy, the energy that is moving in the atoms and the stars and the planets, that seems to be impersonal, that seems to be simply a kind of a force that is at work, the apara prakriti, as it is said in Sanskrit. It is the same energy that is, as gradually evolution becomes more and more open to light, it becomes Shakti. And then the Mahashakti. You realize it's the divine force that knows that at the outset to bring in too much light would not be possible for man to receive, because he is very small, his consciousness is small. He cannot bear the pressure of too much light. He has just a little life force, just a little consciousness. As he grows, he opens up. As he opens up, he realizes that there is a guidance. This force is also knowledge. This force is a guide. This force knows how to lead us upward and change us as we move along. So this is what she has done, tracked out by life on matter's obscure ground. Otherwise, matter is inert. To break that inertia, you need force. And in the beginning, it is this energy that is force. In his climb to a peak, no feet have ever trod. Feet, the world of matter. A peak of consciousness which has to be lived. It is not only to arrive at a highest vision, it is to embody that vision. When you say feet, you stand, the feet are that which connects us with the world of matter. To manifest that consciousness in the body. In his climb to a peak no feet have ever trod. He seeks. This man, that is man's life, man seeks, knowingly or unknowingly, for a long time unknowingly, through a penumbra shot with flame. Penumbra is half shadow, this is mind. There is just a little light, enough light in your mind to know that you don't have light. Just a little darkness and one little ray of light to say, oh, I'm so ignorant, I don't understand anything, I have very slight knowledge. From time to time there is a flash, an intuition, an inspiration, a guidance comes, a revelation comes. These are the shots of flame that break that darkness and say, this is there. We are not only the darkness, there is also an opening to light that can happen in our nature. He seeks through a penumbra shot with flame, a veiled reality, half known, ever missed. What do we seek? Something which we don't have, but which if we do not have, we can never be happy. We want perfection. We want joy. We want God. We want light. We want freedom. We want bliss. We want immortality. We don't have any of them. But if we do not have these, we are not happy. Imperfection does not make us happy. Death does not make us happy. Error and falsehood make us suffer. So we know what we should not have. We don't know exactly what we have to embody. For a long time, this is the state in which we are. We have a little perception of what should and what will perhaps someday be our nature. But at present, we are aware that we are far from that goal. We are still plunged in imperfection and error. So it is ever missed. We don't embody that truth, and therefore there is always suffering. One of the basic conditions of human existence on earth is suffering. This is the whole, you might say, yoga of the Buddha. He wanted to find a solution to suffering. And his solution was just come out of this game, cut off all connection, wipe off this whole play of desire and movement and attachments, and then you won't suffer. But it is not by turning your back to the problem that you solve the problem. This was only half a solution that the Buddha had found or Shankara had found. Sri Aurobindo says, why do we suffer? Because we are asking for that which is the opposite of suffering. We are asking for joy, the perfect Ananda. We are asking for immortality. We are asking for perfection. That is why, and we are not that. We don't have it, but we are asking for it. And until we have it, we cannot be satisfied. And so it's a long, long journey, it's a long preparation. A search for something or someone never found. Cult of an ideal never made real here. As opposed to real, which you realize, which you live, you have an ideal which exists, a perfection that exists in the world of ideas. In your conception, in your mind, there is a formation that is perfect. I live it, I try to live it, and I can't. I have all kinds of inabilities, hindrances, obstructions, weaknesses that stop me from living that. So I have the opening to that ideal, I have the inability to live that ideal. We are torn into two. So this keeps on an endless spiral of ascent and fall. So this is the journey of consciousness. Sri Aurobindo calls it a vertical spiral. We rise to fall, we fall to rise again, maybe a little higher than earlier. We rise and fall, we rise and fall, and it keeps on and on and on, apparently endlessly, but not endlessly, until at last is reached the giant point. It's like that peak of the mountain. It's one point through which His glory shines, for whom we were made, and we break into the infinity of God. Until that final transformation comes and the human becomes an embodiment of that origin from whom we were made. The human is no longer separated from his parent, he becomes an expression of the divine. We owe it to him because he has made us. We should become an expression of that force that has made us. But since we are tied to also the lower nature, it's a very slow, long journey. But this is the purpose of the journey. Okay? I'll stop here today.